DEA announced today there's something else that's even more terrifying than fentanyl by itself. It's an actual new compound that's basically something combined along with the original white powder we just spoke on with something extra. And as we all know, fentanyl by itself is 50 times stronger than heroin, so that speaks boatloads on how dangerous this is, right? Now, if you'd like to support the channel, you can do so in the link down below for Buy Me a Coffee. It's in the description as well as in the super chat, or by subscribing, smashing on that like button. I appreciate every one of that. Now, Ovidio's, brotherhood, his Chapitos, are the ones principally signaled in being the largest single provider of said toxic substance into the United States. And if it wasn't bad enough, like I said, it's 50 times worse than heroin, it just got even a little bit worse. And the DEA's specifically talking about this new formula that they're finding all throughout the United States, primarily on the East Coast. And the weirdest part about it is, fentanyl's been used in human medicine for a while, but what we're about to get in that they're mixing into the Fenta just to make this new compound isn't actually exclusively designed for human use, nor has it really been tested in humans to a large scale at all, which, yeah, sounds sketchy because it is. That's right. Now, this also has another word on the streets, is like tranq dope, and as well as zombie drug. Those are the three words that are the three slang terms that people are using for it when they buy it on the street. And just like as any new substance hit the street, new names come along with it. And tranq dope because obviously it has a tranquilizing effect, and dope because it's an opiate. For those who don't know, usually when people speak on dopes and things like that, smoking dope, talk about smoking that heroin. Now, the actual substance that they're mixing it into the Fenta to give it this new compound that's this tranq dope that's super deadly is xylacina. Now, what's actually interesting about it is it's a sedative, it's a painkiller, and it's a muscle relaxer all at the same time. So it's the trifecta of death. Because if you think about taking those three things and putting them alongside with an opiate, it's probably the worst possible consequence. In fact, just by itself, having a sedative along with an opiate is horrible, much less having, just another example, any type of benzo mixed with opiate is also a death sentence, but having all three of these put together at the same time with an opiate, and not just with an opiate, but with the strongest opiate, the one that's 50 times stronger than heroin, mixed along with these three things simultaneously, is literally looking about as hard for death as you can. And it almost sounds to me you'd be luckier to try anything in the world other than this. You'd be a lot better off and have a lot better luck as far as getting high and not having to die. But in some places, I understand this is the only type of thing people can find. So just out of pure desperation, they buy this stuff. Some places, yes, they prefer this stuff they go looking for, but other places they can't find anything else, and this is like a last resort. The xylazine was actually detected by, for the first time in Puerto Rico, and this is in the early 2000s, and in a DEA report, the growing threat of xylazine and its mixture with illicit drugs, was the actual name of the report. If you guys want to look up this report and see exactly what I'm speaking on, it's interesting because out of all the places in the world, Puerto Rico isn't exactly known as one of the testing grounds for opiates. It's in fact quite the opposite. Usually it's been traditionally an upper, they've had huge epidemics between coke and, of course, between amphetamine. So things change though, and especially with this whole synthetic drug game, things you wouldn't have seen in one part, you're starting to see in a very common in another part, just due to the fact that them being synthetics, they can basically be cooked anywhere. It's not that hard to get around that anymore. Now, the other thing we want to look at is the psychoactive, capabilities that this has. So this actually makes people hallucinate as well, as far as this new sedative they're adding into it. It's not just the opiate, down, relaxed, warm blanket feeling. Now they're actually throwing, even though it's a potentiator, they're also throwing in something that makes people hallucinate. So basically go into psychosis as well, which is a completely different side effect from any other opiate that I know of that people are taking right now, at least. Now, on top of, if that wasn't all enough, right? It's terrifying, I know. Xylazine has, as far as the consumers, a lot of effects of the opiates, but the effect actually makes the fentanyl last longer. So some people have noticed that they get double the high off it. So it's another reason for them to be using it on top of everything else I just mentioned. It also doubles the half-life of their high, which is definitely a big motivator for a lot of people to be using it on top of every other reason I just put out there. Not saying it's a good idea. I'm just saying as a user, that's why they're using it, right? Now, right now, the consumers that are intentionally injecting it, this mixture is even more stronger. A lot of people are smoking it, of course, as with most of the fentanyl on the streets, like the M30 and things. But in this case, when it's injected, it's even more devastating. If the actual chance of dying of an overdoses with just fentanyl shooting it up as bad, imagine now mixed with this previously mentioned substance. It's extremely high, and it's being used so common now as a cutting agent. They think it's going to be everywhere, that you aren't going to be able to find fentanyl pretty soon without it being previously cut with this veterinary compound. And there's been certain things, like, for example, as far as side effects, dry mouth, you got hypertension, you also have sleepwalking, a heart attacks have been known to happen, hypertension, hyperglycemia, excuse me. You have a lowered heart rate as well, hypothermia, coma, respiratory depression, and these are just some known side effects that go along with the xylazine by itself. So take those into effect with fentanyl's known side effects, put them both together, and we have basically a new nightmare drug on our hands as far as epidemics go in the United States. And I'm not laughing as in, haha, I'm laughing as it's already past an epidemic when we've lost well over 100,000 people just this year. I don't even know what you call it anymore. But it's well past that point. In fact, the DEA has been looking into this specific compound, like I previously stated, but what more can they really do? This war on drugs has been lost a very long time ago, and there's nothing they can do as far as changing their policy or anything like that that'll actually let the people come out of the, what would you say, hermit hole they're in. Because the way things are looking right now, it's hard enough just people supporting their habit on a day-to-day basis and not having to worry about dying, and that's with the fentanyl and the heroin. But you throw in this compounds like xylazine and everything else, and it's surprising that they can live more than a couple weeks. It's Russian roulette, but instead of just one out of every six, now it seems like two or three of them are live bullets instead of 1 out of 6, and it's a sad state of affairs. But that's the Mexico we're living in now, and the fact the United States takes the death toll as far as the overdoses, and here in Mexico takes the death as far as in violent homicides. We're both suffering on both sides of the border, so